A very good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of the ManageEngine team, I welcome you to today's free OpManager training series. First, we're going to see about alarms and severities where we're going to have and help on how to keep an eye on the alarm page to understand the entire status of your network with various different severities and the alarms which have been raised from the OpManager based on the configuration which you have done. Followed by, we will be seeing in depth about SNMP trap processing and Syslog processing from the OpManager, where we'll give you an understanding on how this works with few examples. Followed by notifications. One of the major important thing on any network monitoring tool is about the various ways on how we can get notified when something goes wrong in our environment. So here in this part, we're going to see the various different ways through which OpManager can notify you based on the exact criteria and the conditions which applies for you. And then we're going to see about network maps where we'll have a live geographical representation of your IT network, which always gives you a better visibility. And finally, we're going to see about the reporting capability of OpManager as a network monitoring solution in your environment with various different bundled default and advanced reports which are available from the product. And the reporting feature is completely customizable, which we are going to see in detail in the upcoming slides. And now we are going to start the webinar with the first topic, which is on alarm severity. So in our previous parts, in part one, we have seen how to discover devices, and in part two, we have seen on what are the various different metrics which can be monitored and what are the various ways of adding them. And the next part comes with the threshold configuration and what are the different alarm severities which are available with the product. So in OpManager, all the thresholds and the alarms are raised based on the threshold which you're configuring for individual metrics is starting from availability to performance monitors or you name it, the threshold which you configure is what the alarm is going to be raised. And these alarms are going to have some default severities which comes with the product. And these can be reconfigured based on the thresholds which you configure. And these are the default thresholds which are available within the product based on the severities. So the first severity is called as the attention, which is the lowermost severity for any metrics which you're monitoring and which you've configured. The second level of threshold is called as trouble, which is denoted by the color orange. And the third, which is the highermost severity, which is denoted by the color red, is called as the critical alarm severity, followed by another alarm severity which we have for the URL downs and service monitors, which is denoted by the color purple with the name service down. And finally, the alarm severity which is called as clear, which is denoted by the color green. By the name and the color itself, we could understand that this means that everything is back to normal. And these color codings are predefined, which cannot be changed, but the alarm severities can be altered based on the thresholds which you configure for the respective metrics which you're monitoring. And now we're going to see how we can configure the thresholds for various different metrics in OpManager. You can set the threshold for performance monitors for multiple devices using the device template, or you can push multiple metrics for the same device type having the threshold values where you can set them at once. And likewise, you can fetch a complete report on the configuration of the threshold which you have done by using the report which is called as threshold details of from the device report directly. So now let me take you to the product and show you more on how the alarm severities and the thresholds can be configured within the product. So when we talk about the alarm page itself, so as you can understand, the alarm page is going to show you all the details of the metrics which you're monitoring as of now within the product. So each and every metrics and the devices which you're monitoring and the thresholds which you have configured, every alarm which is being raised can be viewed from the alarm page itself. The alarm page has multiple tabs, which helps us understand and view the specific metrics which we want in a much easier fashion. Let's say if I want to see all the alarms which have been raised for a specific time period, yes, I can do it. And if I want to see only the trap-based alarms, yes, I could see it. And if it's going to be a storage-based alarms, yes, I can see it. So we have various different filters which are available within the alarm tab, which makes life easier when we want to search for a specific alarm or want to view how our environment is behaving based on the configurations which we have done. And likewise, you have multiple other filter options starting from, you can filter them based on severity, you can filter them based on the type or category, or you can also sort them based on the timeline which you want to see. If you want to see the entire timeline, yes, or if you want to see just for a specific, let's say last 1 hour or last 30 minutes, yes, you can do it. So using these various customizations and the filter options in the alarm page, you would be able to see what alarm has reached at what particular time and how things are going on. For example, if I take this alarm, this is a device down alarm stating that this device went down at this particular time, and the entire alarm history, the event history of that particular device for the availability is listed over here. So this gives a single pair tab where you can see everything on how things are there. And also from here, you have multiple other options where you can check the availability, you can unmanage the device, you can even configure the notifications directly from the alarm tab as well. And likewise, in the alarm tab, you have other options to add a note, you can acknowledge them, you can ping the device immediately, or you can clear the alarm or delete the alarm respectively. And now we have seen how the alarms are there, what are the various different severities which are available. And the next thing which is important is for an alarm to get raised or to be created, the important stuff is about the thresholds which we configure. For example, if you want to push the thresholds on bulk for multiple devices, you have to go for the best option, which is called as the device template. So under the device template, you have something called as edit threshold. So here, all the predefined monitors will be listed pretty easily, where you can configure them and put in the desired respective thresholds and put them accordingly. And once you have all the thresholds configured in a single tab, you can easily click on save and associate, which will push this configuration to all the devices which are under Windows 2008 R2. And there are other ways of pushing thresholds where if you want to push it for a specific monitor for multiple devices, you can use the monitoring performance tab where you can choose the CPU utilization, update the thresholds, and push it to multiple devices on a single go. So this is how you can easily configure the thresholds and push it to various different devices. And if you have the device template configured and ready, you can easily use them for the fresh discovery which is happening, which saves lots of time when you perform the discovery and then do the threshold configuration. So before doing the discovery, if you have the device template predefined and ready with the desired monitors and the thresholds, things becomes much easier. And let's say I've forgotten to do that, no issues. You can easily come to the device template, configure the changes which you want, push it to the desired devices, and voila, you will be able to have the devices being monitored with the respective monitors and the threshold which you have configured. So based on the thresholds which you have configured, the op manager is going to collect the data and raise the alarms accordingly. And now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is one of the interesting and a new feature which we have released within the product, which is called as adaptive threshold. And this adaptive threshold is available from the build 12.5.452 and above. So what is adaptive threshold and how things are going to work, and what is the advantage of using them? From the available conventional method, this adaptive threshold is a dynamically modifying threshold value for critical monitors, and it uses a machine learning based predictive algorithm and eliminates the need for manual intrusions on deciding the thresholds. So instead of sitting down, configuring the thresholds and changing them based on your requirements, you can enable the adaptive threshold, and that is going to monitor and observe how the device is monitoring, and then it's going to set the thresholds automatically, where you have a leverage of setting specific deviations for the alarms to be raised on how you want to monitor them. And likewise, how these adaptive threshold works. The op manager collects the necessary performance data for all the monitors and feeds them into our advanced predictive algorithm. And this algorithm reads the pattern in the recorded data and then generates the relevant threshold value, which predicts how the values are going to happen in the future. And after collecting the data for minimum of 3 days, the data pattern is finalized and the forecast threshold values are assigned to relevant monitors. If you have more amount of data being monitored, the minimum data required is 3 days. If you have more data, the prediction will be better. With the better prediction, the thresholds will be configured in a much easier and a much accurate manner. Let me take you to the op manager and show you how you can easily enable this adaptive threshold and take it forward. So all you have to do is you have to go to settings, monitoring, and under monitoring you have to go to monitoring settings. So under monitoring settings you would have the option to enable the adaptive threshold, and adaptive threshold is available for CPU utilization, memory utilization, and response time. So this is how the deviation works. You have 10, 15, and 20 which are default, and you can configure them as well, and you'll have a detailed documentation on how this adaptive threshold works. And if you want to know more about them, all you have to do is you have to click on learn more, which is going to redirect you to the help document, which gives you a detailed description on how the threshold configuration works, the adaptive threshold configuration works, and how you can set the various different deviations for them and then get the alarms accordingly. So this is one of the brand new features which you have released within the OpManager, which is called as adaptive threshold settings. And likewise, you also have an option to change the alarm severities which you're monitoring for the availability of the devices. For example, if you want to get attention for the first two polls, you can do that. And if you want to get trouble for the next five missed polls, you can do that. And in case if you want to get a critical alarm directly for the availability monitoring instead of attention, trouble, and critical, you can easily select five missed polls and critical. So once you select this, automatically the op manager will raise a device down alarm with a critical severity only if it misses five consecutive polls when we are monitoring it in the regular polling interval. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. So this is how you can monitor various different devices with various thresholds and get the desired data. And also, let me take you to the Op Manager again and show you few examples on how things work when we monitor them. For example, if I go to this particular desktop device, if I want to see how the monitors are working and if how I can configure the thresholds, it's pretty simple. So all I have to do is I have to go to monitors, and under monitors, I'll be able to see the various different threshold configurations which I've already done. And if I want to change any one of them, it's easy. All I have to do is click on edit threshold. I see how the configurations are there. And if I want, I can put a custom threshold here where I'm going to put it as 90% and the RAM is going to be less than 60%. So that's it. So this is how you can easily configure the threshold for any monitor in a specific device or change them according to your will and wish. And likewise, if you want to see alarms for a specific device, you can simply click on the bell icon in the device snapshot page, which is going to give you a detailed description of all the alarms which has been raised from this device and which are active, which helps you understand how the monitoring is happening and how the threshold violations are happening according to the configuration which you have done. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about alarm escalation. So what is an alarm escalation and how it's going to help me in real time? For example, we have certain critical devices in our environment, and those are pretty vital. Let's take, for an example, an uplink router. The uplink router should not go down for more than 30 minutes. If so, I lose my entire connection to the outer network or to the internet, which is pretty business critical for me. So in those cases, if any alarm is not attended for the next 30 minutes or for the SLA, I could immediately generate another notification to the next level of engineer or to the manager stating that my critical device, let's take an example as an uplink router, is down for more than 30 minutes. So once the manager or the next level of technician sees that it's down, they can easily assign or put more priority to that particular critical issue and get that sorted pretty easily. So by using the alarm escalation rule, you would be able to meet all your SLAs and avoid any major business critical downtimes in your environment where one particular critical alarm or an issue is not been attended within the specified timeline. So here you can easily escalate the unattended alarms to the next level, let's say be next level of engineer or to the manager directly, so that it will get sorted out pretty easily. You can send the escalations as an email or an SMS based on your convenience. And likewise, you can set a particular time period to get the alarm escalation. For example, if the alarm is not cleared within the next 1 hour or next 45 minutes, then raise me an alarm escalation. And likewise, I can run this check every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes to see if any alarm is older than the specified timeline. And also, you can run this check regularly and trigger the notifications accordingly. So now let me take you to the op manager and show you an example on how alarm escalation rule can be configured and how it can be associated. For example, you have to go to settings, configuration, and click on alarm escalation rule. So here, if you want to create an alarm escalation rule, all you need is a rule name, select the severity. Let's say it's going to be critical, and you can also select a specific criteria. Here, we are going to take an example of an uplink router. So I'm going to select the category as a router, and then I can also filter them based on the business views or the groups which I have already created. So here I'm going to apply it to a specific group which I've created for my branch to servers and this uplink router. So if a particular critical alarm is raised for this particular selected criteria and the alarm is older than 45 minutes, I need the next escalation or the manager to be notified. And I want this check to be executed every 15 minutes to see if the alarm is older than 45 minutes or not. And also, I could exclude if an alarm is acknowledged by any technician from the op manager as well. And likewise, you can put your own desired email address from and to, and also receive an SMS based on the convenience on how you want to notify the next level of technician or your manager when a critical alarm is not attended within the specified timeline. So this is how you can easily configure the alarm escalation rule and the various advantages of using alarm escalation rule apart from the default alarms and the notification options that are available from the op manager. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. And I would like to say, let you know a reminder, if you have any questions in the topics which we are discussing, please do raise it in the chat channel so that a team of panelists can answer them. And also, we'll be sharing those interesting questions which we have received during the course of the webinar for the better advantage of larger audience. And now, moving on to the next topic. The next topic which we are going to see is about SNMP trap and how SNMP trap processing works within OpManager. So in our day-to-day life, for a network engineer, the traps from the network devices are pretty critical. They want to monitor them based on the traps which are coming in more than the conventional performance monitors which are available using SNMP or various different protocols. So here, OpManager allows you to perform that using the SNMP trap processing, where all you have to do is you have to configure your end device to send traps to the port 162, and this port is configurable. And then you have to point the traps to be forwarded to the op manager server. And once you do that, the product will start listening to the incoming traps, and then the trap based alarms are raised. So here within the products, as we receive many traps from m number of devices based on your configuration, we have something called as trap processor. A trap processor is nothing but it processes the incoming trap, checks if you have configured the threshold or the desired criteria, and then raises an alarm. So this is nothing but a simple rule which converts the incoming traps, which reads the incoming traps, and then raises the alarm accordingly. And this also helps you convert uh, a digital based data which comes in a format of zeros and ones in the OID format to a human understandable message. And this is how the trap processor works in OpManager. And likewise, in OpManager, you can easily configure the trap processors from rules, trap phrases, and alarms. And also, you can get the MIP from the vendor or the website to create a new trap processor. Let's say you have multiple traps which are coming in and you don't want to sit down and create them individually. All you have to do is you have to get the MIP from the vendor, import them in the op manager. While importing them, you can bulk configure the trap processors on a single go using the MIP browser, using the MIPs which you have obtained from the website or from the vendor directly. And you have an advantage of using the match criteria in the trap processor. Let's say in a single trap, you're getting multiple different information with various different where binds. So here in the second where bind, I am getting a message critical. So only if I see a message critical in the second where bind, I want an alarm, else I don't want. And likewise, when we talk about login failures or invalid login attempts, that is going to come in inside the trap in the specified where bind. So I can easily generate an alarm for the incoming trap for a specific criteria which I want, instead of generating alarms for every trap which is coming inside the op manager. And likewise, you have a custom option to view the incoming traps and then create a trap processor accordingly. And you have something called as trap settings, which allows you to set the port in which you want the product to listen to the incoming traps, the devices from which the trap processing should work, the trap based monitoring should happen. And likewise, you can also set limits for the incoming traps. Let's say if you have a larger environment, you can set a larger threshold. If you're sending more than 10,000 traps per an hour, you can set the threshold. If it's less than, you can multi-configure them and avoid event flooding on the OpManager server. So now let me take you to the product and show you the various different options which are available when it comes to SNMP trap-based monitoring and trap processes. So for that, you have to go to settings, monitoring, and under monitoring you have to go to SNMP trap processor. So under SNMP trap processor, we have the predefined SNMP trap processor which most of our customers are using and which are critical in majority of the environment. And likewise, if you want to create your own trap processor, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is you have to click on actions, click on add, and then create your own trap processor pretty easily. All you have to do is you have to put a name for the processor, enter the trap OID, choose the failure component, the source, the message, how you want them. You can put your own match criteria. For example, if you want to see a specific condition in the second web bind, I want to see this message, and simultaneously, for example, if it's going to be critical, and then again the same trap, if the fifth web bind contains a different message. So in those cases, I could easily set those messages and then raise an alarm only if this matches. And also I could easily clear the alarm, a trap based alarm, using the ream value. So for example, in the sixth web bind, if I'm getting a clear message, I want the previously created or raised alarm to be cleared. So yes, I could do that by using the ream criteria within the trap processor. So by using the trap processor, you can easily process the incoming SNMP traps based on the criteria which you have configured and raise an alarm accordingly. So likewise, if you want to import the trap processors on bulk using a MIB from the vendor, yes, you can do that. All you have to do is you have to upload the map and then use the map file to create multiple trap processors at a single stitch. And likewise, when we talk about trap settings, so how trap settings is going to give us an advantage. So in the trap settings page, you can easily see, you can easily configure the desired port. You can set the limit for the incoming traps and then where you want to stop them, and you can associate the desired devices from which you only want to see the trap based alarms, and for the rest you can easily ignore them. So this is how you can use the trap settings to use an advantage and get the data accordingly. Let's say I am sending traps to the OpManager server for which I don't know the trap OID or the incoming trap processor. There is no default trap processor as well. So in those cases, how can I create trap processor from the product? So that is where the trap viewer is going to come into play and help you. So here, all you have to do is you have to go to settings, uh, monitoring SNMP trap processor, and click on trap viewer. Under trap viewer, you have to click on start receiving. So once you click on start receiving, you'll be able to see the incoming traps in this particular dialog box. For example, if I'm going to send a trap from a specific device, it will be easily listed over here. And likewise, based on each and every trap which is coming in, it will be listed in this particular tab. And once you see them, you can easily configure the trap processor. So all you have to do is click on trap, create trap processor. The trap OID will be predefined. You can set the criteria to which the alarm has to be raised. And this is how you can easily create the trap processors for the incoming raw trap from your network devices. And likewise, if you want to set a specific incoming filter, let's say there are multiple devices which are sending traps to the OpManager server, and it's a little difficult for me to track down. So in those cases, you can put the trap OID, or you can set the device from which the trap is going to come and then filter them accordingly. So you can use this option to view the traps from a specific device and then configure the trap processors accordingly. So this is how you can use the trap viewer, the SNMP trap processor, to your advantage to monitor the network equipment based on the SNMP traps which are coming inside the product which has been forwarded from your network equipment. So this gives a better hand for the network engineers to monitor their environment in a much greater advantage using the traps which comes by default from the network equipments. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about syslog monitoring. The OpManager listens to the default syslog port such as 514 or 519. And these ports are configurable, and you can put multiple syslog receiving ports like you have done for SNMP trap processors. And likewise, the severity of the incoming Syslog alarms can be easily customized by using the Syslog rule. And you have an advanced option where you will have multiple other filter options and various criteria to raise an alarm and process the incoming syslogs. Here, the incoming syslogs comes to the op manager, and based on the rules which we create, which is called as syslog rules, we would be raising the alarms. And these syslog rules can be created based on the faculty name, severity, and etc. And likewise, you can check the syslog flows, the flow rate which are coming from the environment which are received in the op manager to know and avoid the event log flooding based on the syslog which we receive. So one of the important criteria or mandatory function which you have to understand and remember is that in op manager we do not store the incoming syslog messages or the syslog files directly into the product. So all we do is we listen to the syslogs which are coming to the product. Based on the rules which you have configured, we'll raise the alarm and then drop the syslog file which we have received. So you have to understand that here the op manager only performs a syslog monitoring based on the rules which you have created, and we will not store the syslog files within the product in any locations. And here, if we want to create a syslog rule, it's pretty simple and straightforward. So all you have to do is you have to give a name for the particular rule by default, and then choose the faculty name if it's going to be user, and then if it's going to be emergency, you can select the severity as emergency, put the match criteria as login failed, and then select the criteria as critical and put a message there. Number of occurrences, if it happens more than 3 times within the next 30 seconds, let's say, let it put it as 120 seconds, raise me an alarm. And likewise, I could also put a rearm criteria, a clear event for this particular syslog rules. In the same syslog file, if I'm missing a different message, you can easily create a clear event and then clear the alarm which was raised previously by the above criteria. So this is how you can easily create a syslog rule and then monitor them. And likewise, if you want to see the syslog ports and reconfigure it, yes, it's pretty simple. So all you have to do is if you have your own syslog ports, for example, if it's 1514 in my environment, I can easily put them there and save it. And likewise, if you want to see the syslog flow rate which I'm receiving, the number of syslogs which I'm receiving, as of now, you can click on the flow rate to view them. And likewise, if you want to forward the incoming syslog to a destination server, yes, you can do that. So for that, all you have to do is you have to add a destination to which the op manager should forward the incoming syslogs so that you can store them in your syslog servers or event log where you're monitoring your syslogs, and you store them accordingly for future references. So here you can use the op manager as a syslog forwarding tool to forward the incoming syslogs to the destination server. And likewise, you can click on start forwarding, and the incoming syslogs will be forwarded to the designated destination server. So this is how you can use the syslog monitoring from the op manager for your advantage to monitor the incoming syslogs and raise the alarms accordingly. Now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about notifications. So in Op Manager, we do have a wide range of notification options starting from emails, email-based SMSs, SMSs, you can chat, run-based commands, run programs, log a ticket for any ticketing tools, web-based alarms, syslog profiles, trap-based profiles, and webhook-based notification triggers as well. So here the notifications functionality is to convert the alarms of any type to offer notifications such as email, SMS, or ticket with the customized message and the descriptions. And here you can pick the criteria, the alert criteria from all the alarms which are being raised. Instead of getting emails or SMSs for each and every alarm which is coming inside the product, you can customize. I want emails or notifications only for device tone and for critical metrics. Yes, you can do that. You have all the customization options when we create the notifications. So now we are going to see a few of the examples in the notifications such as email and other examples so that we'll have a better understanding on how the notification works and how we can configure them from the product side. So here we're going to take an example on how we can configure an email based notification. So the first thing what you have to do is you have to have your mail server configured under the mail server settings, and then you have to select the criteria and the devices to which the notification profile has to be applied. And then you can have a customized message and the description so that it can be sent to a specific person. And also you'll have an advantage of scheduling this notification profile to work 24/7 or for a specific timeline as well. So now let me take you to the product and show you how you can configure an email based notifications. For example, if you want to create an email based notification, first you have to do is you have to click on add, click on email, and then you have to click on next. In the first tab, all you have to do is you have to put the email addresses separate by a comma if you want to send it to multiple people, and keep them ready. And then the next important page which you have to remember is the criteria tab, where you have to select the desired criteria perfectly. So only based on the criteria which you select here, you would be getting the notifications. For example, we have seen in many cases where customers come in and tells us that we didn't get a device down trouble notification, but in the notification profile they would have configured it to be sent for a critical criteria. So here, based on the criteria which you have selected, only if a device on critical alarm is raised, the product will send you a notification. So based on your requirement, you have to select the criteria under the notification precisely, because this is how the product checks and then converts an alarm into a notification. And likewise, by the name itself, you can understand the various different metrics which we monitor has the respective criteria under the criteria tab. And likewise, the next tab, which is called as the device selection place, is where you can associate the devices in a specific group and then create the notification. If here I want to associate this notification profile to my HO servers, I could easily do that on a single go by using the filter option. And then you can use the time window tab where you can tell the product that this profile should work 24/7, or I want this to work in a specific timeline. So here I'm going to configure it to work only in the weekends, including Friday. So I have a custom requirement where this profile should work only for 3 days. So in those cases, I could set a timeline. So from 12 to the next day, in this particular timeline, I should be able to monitor this notification. It should work only in that time. And if I don't want to get the notifications immediately, I could configure a delay trigger and then trigger the notification after a time delay. And I could also set a recurring trigger. A recurring trigger is nothing but the product is going to check if the alarm is cleared or not. And if it's not cleared, it's going to send a repeated notification for the same alarm until it's cleared. So this is how you can easily configure a notification profile with various different criterias and save them. So once you have them, product will send you and convert the alarms into a valuable notification based on the configuration which you have done. And then you can take the necessary action to fix the problems in your environment based on the monitoring which is happening. And now let's go back to the presentation and continue. And I would like to remind you again, and if you have any questions in the topics which we are discussing, please do raise it in the chat channel, and our team of panelists will answer them. And now let's continue with the next topic. The next topic which we are going to see is about invoking a webhook. Invoking a webhook-based notification is a brand new feature which is within the product of OpManager which we have released recently. Here you can easily configure them in a much quicker and an easy configuration method. You can get a real-time information from the monitoring solution onto your environment. You can use webhook URLs to send the alerts to other applications as well. For example, Microsoft Teams, Telegram, or Tiggle, or any platform which supports webhook-based invocations, you can use the OpManager to invoke a webhook-based notification to the desired environment. So now let me take you to the product and show you the various different options which are available in terms of webhook configurations. So here, when we talk about webhook configurations, all you need is the hook URL, the webhook URL from the respective platform, and give the header and the header values, the user agent method, and then the criteria, device selection. Everything else is similar to the other notification profiles. The only difference is that is the first tab in all the notifications. If it's going to be email, you have to select the email messages. If it's going to be webhook notification, you have to give in the webhook integration methods. And let's say I have certain doubts on how to configure the webhook notification for Microsoft Teams or Telegram. From the OpManager, we provide a detailed documentation on how this can be achieved. For that, all you have to do is you have to go to the help.opmanager.com, where you can easily have a detailed documentation for every integrations based on Webhook. For example, if it's going to be Microsoft Teams, yes, you have them. And if it's going to be Telegram, yes, we have a detailed documentation for the same. So if it's going to be a Telegram based Webhook notifications, you have a detailed documentation with a video description on how you can create a Telegram bot first and then set these respective privileges and then retrieve the chat ID and the token key and then configure the webhook notification from the product side and select the criteria so that you can easily get a notification in your Telegram directly. Or if it's going to be a Microsoft Teams, yes, you can do that. We have a detailed documentation for the Microsoft as well. So this is how you can use the webhook notification from the product side to get notified for any platform which supports webhook in your environment stuff depending on the conventional email or SMS based notifications. And now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about workflow. So what is a workflow? So workflow in the Op Manager helps in IT automations and where they are code free. So here you can simply drag and drop the actions and perform the desired metrics. And likewise, you can easily initiate the workflow when a fault occurs, or you can schedule a routine task to perform the desired IT automation. It can easily check and perform an action based on the checklist which you have created. So now we are going to take an example and understand how the workflow, an IT automation tool, helps in performing a specific task when something goes wrong or for a specific information. See here we have taken an example of performing a specific change or a Windows update on our environment. So as a server admin, if I want to perform any Windows updates, all I have to do is I have to use a bulk import method as a group policy or go to each and every server and update the respective patches and then restart them. So instead of doing that manually for different machines, and here from the product side, as we are monitoring those servers, we'll be raising you a device down alarm as well when the patching happens. So to avoid all those manual efforts, you can easily use the workflow option to automate this process. So here in the workflow, as you can easily see that the first thing what you're going to do is we're going to put the device which you're monitoring, the server which you're monitoring on which we're going to make the change on a maintenance. So first action what we are going to do is we're going to put the device on a maintenance mode. And then we are going to execute a Windows script. And then once the maintenance has been configured, I need to understand for which this maintenance. Because, for example, if I come back and check the alarm tabs on why this device was on maintenance on, let's say, April 2020, I want to know that this was done for a Windows patching based on the workflow which I've created. So I can put a custom alarm node for that particular maintenance window, and then I'm executing a script to execute a Windows shell, a Windows script, or you can use your own desired script format as well. And in that script, I'm performing the Windows patching. And once the patching is completed, when once the script execution is completed, I could easily reboot the machine. And once the reboot has completed, I am going to exit the maintenance which I've put on the op manager for the monitor device, and then send an SMS or a notification that this particular workflow is completed and the Windows patching has been done successfully. So this makes things easier. For example, if I want to perform a Windows patching on the weekdays, or if I want to perform it on the weekends, I have to sit and perform it. So instead of doing that, you can use the op manager to simply configure that action in an automated fashion so that you can easily have them do the task in your absence, and the product is going to perform a completely task and send you a notification that the task which you've configured for a specific timeline is completed. So you can just configure them and sit back and relax, where the product is going to automatically do the task for you in an automated fashion and then perform it as well. And likewise, if you want to configure this notification to be triggered based on an alarm, yes, you can do that. For example, I'm getting a device to an alarm where I want to ping the device again and see. So to ping a device, I could easily set ping device, and then I could select the packets to which I'm sending it and also the retry options. Once I have done that, the next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the alarm if the ping works, and if I'm going to generate an alarm if the ping doesn't work. So in those cases, if the ping works, the secondary ping test works, I'm going to put the action to clear the alarm. If the ping fails again, I could generate an alarm that the device is still down. So I can easily create a workflow to generate a device down and also clear them, performing a secondary action for a device down instead of directly getting a notification or an alarm when a device goes down. So once I have configured a ping test, I could easily associate it to the desired device and then set the uh, trigger interval on based on what alarm should I trigger this notification. So here I'm going to trigger it based on the device tone for missing the poles for availability, where the lowermost we had, which is called as attention. So I'm selecting attention, and also I should select the same criteria and at the bottom where you can see notify only when the severity is attention. So once you have selected the criteria, you can give a name for that, apply, choose whether it should be working 24/7 for a specific timeline, and then also have a delay trigger and a recurring trigger as well. So once you've configured them, you can easily save them. So once you have saved this profile, the Op Manager will automatically trigger this workflow and perform the actions accordingly. And likewise, the Op Manager also has uh, a workflow log where you can see what is the log happens and what is the workflow working properly or not, how things are happening, and all those information can be easily viewed based on the workflow log. So for that, all you have to do is you have to click on workflow logs and view the information. And likewise, if you will have multiple filter options where you can view them based on the timelines which you select or the time period based on the business hours or a particular business rules. You can select them and export them, and also you can schedule this report, the workflow log, to be sent in a specific timeline when something goes wrong or once the workflow is completed for an annual audit purposes as well. So we'll be seeing in depth about the various reporting options in our upcoming slides. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about reports. The reporting capability of any network monitoring tool is going to play a major role on how the network monitoring tool is going to help us rectify the problems and take the necessary actions for a capacity planning or annual audit purposes. So here in the Op Manager, we have an out-of-box performance reports, forecast reports, health reports, audit reports, and you can create custom reports with the data based on the choices of the inventory and the criteria that you select. And also you have the options to schedule and send the emails and export the reports in XLS, PDF, and doc formats as well. And also you can view a printer friendly report from the GUI as well. And the next important thing which you have to see about the reporting capability is called as the advanced report. So this is a brand new feature which helps you completely customize the reports which you take for the annual capacity planning or audit reports or for any requirements in your environment. So here you can mix and match the criterias, the matrices. You can set criterias and the group them for an explicit output, and then get generalized properties and performance matrices for devices, interfaces, URLs, and service monitors, and then schedule them accordingly. Before moving on to the data collection manager topic, let's go back to the op manager and see various different options which are available under the reporting feature. So as we have discussed in the op manager, we have a wide range of predefined reports which are available within the product based on various criteria, starting from the metrics which you monitor: health and performance, availability, response time, storage reports, forecast reports, and Meraki devices. And for example, when we talk about advanced reports, and the main advantage of advanced report is that I have the privilege to select the columns and the rows which I want to see from the desired devices. For example, if I want to see the availability monitors, I can just select availability. General properties, I want to see the device name. I want the device name to be at the top. I can simply rearrange the column and then select the performance monitor. For example, in this, I want to see the CPU or of that particular device along with the memory, and then I have multiple other options which I could select as well. And then I could easily click on the group by column option to have a customized grouping parameter, and then the criteria where you can select the availability status of the RAM. For example, if it's going to be IP address, I want to see a specific device type. For example, if it's going to be equals routers, which is servers, yes, you can do that. And also I can put a specific timeline for this report. I could get it for the next last 1 hour or for a custom timeline as well. Let's say for the last 6 months or last 1 year, I could easily get a complete report of this particular information. So this is how you can get and customize the advanced report for the desired columns, and you can rearrange them based on the requirements which you have. And likewise, you can edit them and save them and also schedule them. So when we talk about report scheduling, the scheduling is pretty simple and straightforward. So all you have to do is click on add schedule, choose the report and schedule them. That's it. That is how you can easily schedule any reports in your environment. And likewise, you can create your own customized business hours. For example, if you're working between 9 to 10, if you want to take the report only between 9 to 10, yes, you can do that from the op manager by creating a business hour rule under the report setting. So here, these are the various different options and the available reports from the product side for the data which you're collecting, and then you can have them documented as a report and also view them for future references for better capacity planning and resource management. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue with the next topic, which is called as data collection manager. So what is a data collection manager and how it's going to help us? The data collection manager is a watchdog for the data collection which is happening within the op manager for the devices which are there in your environment, which we are monitoring. And this helps us achieve a better scalability, increases the data collection performance, and reduce the load on the polling engines, and continuously tracks on the failed monitors, interfaces, and credentials. So, for example, before having the data collection manager feature, if a credential is failing, we will not have any alarms, or we'll not know if the monitor has stopped working or if we are overloading the polar engines. So, all that will be handled by the data collection manager. So, for example, here, by using the data collection manager, I would be able to get the alarms immediately if a particular monitor is not collecting the data, because a credential is failing in every environment. We have a policy of changing the passwords every 3 months or every 6 months. So in those cases, we would have forgotten to update it in the network monitoring solution. So when that happens, the product will not be able to collect the data for the network performance metrics is because the credential is failing. So by using the data collection manager option, we would notify you that the credential is failing for this device, because of which the alarm data collection, the monitoring data collection is not happening. So once you get that alarm, you'll be able to rectify that problem and have a better data collection and avoid any downtimes or losing the data for the metrics which you're monitoring. And likewise, the data collection manager would be sending reports daily between 3 to 4 a.m. As a consolidated report, which tells you how many monitors have failed, how many interfaces are not working properly or collecting the data, how many interfaces in which devices the credentials are failing. And also in under the data collection manager, we have three states, which is called as normal state, suspended state, and a disabled state. The normal state is nothing but when everything goes properly with no issues, it will be under the normal state. For example, when the monitor is not collecting or the device is not responding to a specific metrics for the next 6 hours, we'll put it onto a suspended state where the polling for for that metrics will be delayed. So the polling will happen only once in 5 hours, and then if the monitor starts responding properly, it will go back to the normalcy. In case if the monitor is still not responding for the delayed polling as well for the next 7 days, we would disable that monitor's polling. So now let me take you to the product and show you on how the data collection manager is available and what are the various different options. So this data collection manager is a major watchdog which helps us have a better monitoring for the metrics which we are having and avoid the problems if it's happening because of a credential failure or the monitors used query or the OID is not compatible with the devices. So this is how you would be able to use the data collection manager to have a better monitoring solution to avoid any desired or unavoidable reasons for because of which the performance monitoring for the critical devices are not happening. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about maps. The maps are nothing but a visualization of the network on a geographical map. You can easily identify the location and the devices where an outage happens in a global view. And we have both Google Maps and Zoho Maps which are available. So now let me quickly take you to the product and show you how the mapping feature works. So when we talk about the overall geographical map, we have Zoho Maps and Google Maps. For the Google Maps, you have to provide a purchased API key from your Google account so that we would be able to use that API to create the globalized map using the Google Maps and where we can put the devices in the desired locations. And in case if, we also give you a solution where you can use the default free of cost Zoho Maps, which comes with inbuilt the product, where you can simply drag and drop or just double click on the desired location and select the device and then name them and put them in that location. So by this, you'll have a global view on the sensors and the devices which are working and how things are happening. And also you have the options to export them in an XLS, or you can import them. You can import multiple devices using a CSV file as well. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue with the next topic. The next topic which we're going to see is about business view. The business view will help us create a logical view for your network map and view its performance in a global pictorial format. And you can easily drill down to the snapshot of the device or interfaces to view its detailed performance by a single click. You can identify the performance of the devices by using various different links of color codes. And also you can fetch reports for specific business views. You can use this business view as a filter and reports, user management, or for any customized threshold configurations for specific group of devices. You can use all those areas as a filter when we have the business view configured. Creating a business view in the OpManager is pretty simple and straightforward. So all you have to do is you have to go here, click on create, and then drag and drop the devices according to your will and wish, where you can put your own backgrounds, have a grid view, and configure the devices in a much easier and a detailed fashion. If I want to create a link between two different devices, all I have to do is just drag and drop and then choose the interface based on different devices. I can choose them, choose the interface, and then save them. So this is how you can easily create a map. And once you've created the map, you can save them. And one with the use of the business view, you can use this as a filter option or for a graphical view or for a network topology. You can easily use them and have a better understanding of your network based on the configurations that you have done. And now let's go back to the presentation and continue. The next topic which we are going to see is about rack view and 3D flow view. The rack view and 3D flow view are another pictorial representations which are available within the Op Manager, which helps us view our environment, the racks and the flow, the rack flows, the data center flows in a pictorial format for a better understanding of our environment. Moving on to the next topic, dashboard and knock view. The dashboard and knock view is a simple and a detailed, a critical requirement for many environments. So the dashboard is going to have multiple widgets. Based on each widget is going to show you the data for the collected matrices, the monitored devices based on the filters which you choose. So once you have configured the dashboard, you have multiple options when it comes to dashboard configurations. For example, if you want to add more widgets to the dashboard, yes, you can do that. You can select the desired widgets. In the Op Manager, we have a wide range of widgets which are available. Once you have selected them, you can click on add. And after the add option, you also have an option where you can specifically configure these dashboards to be visible for multiple users or for administrators or specific set of users. So you have multiple filter options as well. For example, if I want to associate this dashboard to be visible to a specific people under my bank site 3. So in those cases, I could easily select, for example, if it's going to be reports, yes, I could do that. If it's going to be operator, yes, I could do that. If I want to associate it to all administrators, yes, I could do that. So this is how you can easily create the dashboard and associate it to the desired set of users. And also you have the knock view, where once you have the dashboard configured, you can easily create a knock view, where the knock view is nothing but it's created based on the dashboard which you've already created. So once you've selected the desired dashboard and once you give a name for it, you'll be able to get and create a knock view. So here you'll get the entire URL for the knock view, and this URL can be placed on your knock screen in your environment, where you can see the entire dashboard in a pictorial format and view the changes which are happening in your environment in a much easier and a much quicker manner. So now let's go back to the presentation and continue. And now we are going to enter the question and answer session, where I'll be sharing few of the interesting questions which we have received during the course of the webinar. Moving on to the first question, what is a MIB browser? A MIB browser in the Op Manager is nothing but an SNMP testing tool which helps you see how the device is responding to specific SNMP OIDs, and then create the monitors accordingly. For example, if I want to see this is some time, this is going to be my OID, and if I want to see how the device responds, you could simply use the MIB browser to get the desired results. And likewise, if I want to choose a different MIB and then see how my HR storage virtual memory is going to work, I could simply click on the OID and see how the response. Here, as you can see, for this OID, as this is not a virtual machine, it's not responding to my HR storage virtual memory. So this is how you can easily confirm why the monitor was not collecting data. The SNMP monitor was not collecting data for the created OID which we are using. So the MIP browser is nothing but an SNMP testing tool which helps us get the data and the responses for any SNMP OIDs from the desired devices. Moving on to the next question. How do we receive emails about failed monitors, interfaces, and credentials? And this happens from the data collection manager feature from the OpManager. So for that, you have to go to setting, the support icon, diagnostics, and you have to click on settings. Here you have to enable the reports which you want and enter the email address to which this reports has to be sent every day. Now let's go back to the question and answer session and continue. The next question, can I change the severity of device down alert? Yes, you can change that. For that, you have to go to settings, and under settings, you have to go to configuration, device down settings. So over here, you can set different alarm severities for the device down alarm which is being triggered from the OpManager. Moving on to the next question. Can I have multiple business hour rules configured under the report? Yes, you can do that, and this can be achieved from the report settings tab. Moving on to the next question. Can I create a dashboard visible to only selected users? Yes, you can do that. And let me again show you on how this can be achieved. For that, you have to go to the dashboard, and then under the dashboard, you'll have the predefined dashboards you have already configured. So under that list, all you have to do is you have to click on edit dashboard, click on that specific dashboard which you want to edit them, and then choose the desired users and update them. So this is how you can make the dashboard visible to a selected set of users. Moving on to the next question. How does the forecast report works? The forecast report works based on the collected data for the past 2 weeks. So for the CPU memory and disk for which we are showing the forecast report, we would be requiring the data, and the monitoring should happen for that specific device for these three monitors for the past 2 weeks. Only once we have the data for the for the past 14 days, we would be able to predict how the data will happen, how the spike will happen for the specific matrices, and then show you the data in the forecast report. And I would also welcome you to the part 4 of this season of the OpManager training series, which is conducted on September 28th, where we'll be seeing in depth about add-ons and integrations in OpManager, where we'll see about benefits of add-ons, integration options, and the mobile app and its advantages. We'll be uploading all our technical and how to do videos in our YouTube channel. You can visit our help document at help.opmanager.com, and we'll be having a technical discussion in our forum post. And you can reach our team by dropping an email to opmanager-support@manageengine.com, or dial in directly, or reach our chat support as well. And this is the right time for you to register in the link which is given at the bottom, and this link is going to help you become a certified OpManager Pro. I thank one and all for attending this season of the OpManager training series, and I'm looking forward to meet you all in the part 4, which is happening on September 28th. Thank you.